Camilla Cavendish's analysis in the Financial Times today proposes that the NHS's woes boil down to management, a mix of intellectual nonsense, ineffectual systems, outdated structures, a leadership vacuum in which the real responsibility is constantly shuffled backwards and forwards. Uh, Her view suggests that management in the NHS is not just a flaw; it's the problem, perpetuating inefficiencies, eroding the morale of both patients and staff alike. And I'm inclined to agree with that conclusion, but then she goes into more detail, and I'm not sure I agree with all the detail. The core of her argument is compelling. The NHS is inherently split between centralised and decentralised authority. Politicians control the purse and meddle due to accountability, while NHS CEOs attempt leadership within a system hampered by rigid budgets and a myriad of trusts and agencies. And this structure, Cavendish argues, impedes decisive action and entrenches inefficiencies. And that I entirely agree with. With the Treasury demanding yearly budgets, there's little scope for long-term planning or innovation, even as underperforming hospitals are regularly propped up by funds siphoned from well-performing ones. The problem is that the management quality in the NHS is wrong. And so even giving the NHS more independence, even giving individual trusts more independence, won't solve the problem. Her insight into the workforce underlines a critical flaw in the NHS's treatment of its staff. The system enforces rigid pay bands, inadequate rewards for experience, and practically immovable underperformers. And this bureaucratic rigidity leads to burnout, with capable professionals twiddling their thumbs as operating theatres lie unused or simply opting out of overtime. Cavendish proposes that a cultural shift towards rewarding high performance, empowering staff, would improve productivity and morale alike. Is she correct that a management overhaul could be the NHS's salvation? Broadly, yes, absolutely. But the way that would take place, I think, would be to entrench the current management, or to give the current management more powers, and that would be ghastly. That would be horrific, because the current management is the problem. Yet the challenges, therefore, of implementing even the vision that she's got are formidable. Executives with impressive track records, as she recommends, might come in, might bring improvements, but without clear political will to cut through entrenched bureaucracy, that's the issue, they're likely to founder like others before them. And removing political influence is an idealistic aim. Cavendish's example of the 2012 reforms shows that removing politics often begets further fragmentation rather than cohesion. Ultimately, she may be right that the NHS needs a classic management turnaround, but the question remains, can it succeed without disentangling the NHS from the bureaucratic and the political labyrinth that defines it? While better management might bring incremental improvements, it's difficult to imagine a complete transformation without a structural reform that's neither politicised nor superficial. That structural reform needs to take out a lot of the bureaucratic middle management. Not the doctors, not the surgeons, not the nurses, not the cleaners. It's that bit at the top that we don't see. The bit that actually dominates NHS, the buildings of NHS England, for example. You do know that those buildings exist. They are monumental. And they are staffed not with doctors or nurses, but with pen pushers who are entirely responsible for the fact that one piece of paper does not cohere with another piece of paper, that one instruction doesn't follow another. And while we can regularly identify the failures in bureaucracy, we need to look to the bureaucrats to hold them accountable, but they are hidden. And that is fundamentally the problem of the NHS, that the bureaucrats are even hidden from the NHS staff, the doctors, the nurses, the surgeons who walk around the wards, who walk around the hospitals. It's the people that we don't see who we need to get rid of, who we need to replace. And that's harder because we're starting off with it's a little bit like reality TV. The bit of reality TV which needs sorting out is the stuff you don't see. That's where the problem lies. And the NHS is so run, the one thing it protects, the one thing it preserves, is that hidden army which is raking in money by the day, often for doing very little. That's the army that needs to go. And that's the army that never goes on strike, of course. It never complains about pay because it is paid very, very well.